All right, this is tutorial number 2. So put your tutorial pants on, because because you need pants to do this tutorial. All right, so yesterday we left off with smoothing groups, and today I just want to go a little bit further into smoothing groups. That was just a part 1. There's kind of some practical applications that matter when you're modeling, and I think it's probably better to go into an actual model than just to talk about it. We just kind of did some shapes. Let's actually make a model. Let's see what happens when we apply smoothing groups to certain areas and see how we can affect what's called creasing when we smooth an object. So let's just jump over to 3D Studio Max. Make sure you got yours balling. Mine is ready to go. All right, so we're going to make a object first, okay? We're actually going to go with spline modeling first. This is just a fancy way of starting with a two-dimensional object, much like you're using Adobe Illustrator to project a shape. You've probably seen this done before if you know anything about 3D modeling. It is a shortcut in some regards. It does some neat stuff, but it also has some drawbacks. So it's not fantastic, but it's not awful either. It's a great way to get started. So we're just gonna start with, let's make a vase. If you look up smoothing groups in the 3D Studio Max handbook or help guide, it shows a vase. So we're gonna make a vase real quick. And mine might look stupid because I'm making it on the fly. So you can go ahead and eat me if it looks terrible. I'm kidding. But I don't know. I'm a crappy teacher, so I'm gonna argue at you. Oh, I should probably explain what I'm doing first. So open your creation panel here. Make sure you go into splines. The first one is actually standard primitives. We're not gonna want that. We want to go to splines, okay? Or we'll get into NURBs later. Those are interesting as well. But let's just start with a line. We're not going to use any of the other shapes because we can make them. Just start with a line. All right, and then we're just going to draw out the shape of a vase. So let's do an open vase, and then I'll show you how to finish it up. So we'll just do the outside. So yours can be as crappy as mine, or even worse. So don't feel bad about it. So you click one and you get a line started. Okay, you're still on the object over here. When you click again, it's going to put down another vertice or vertex. When you right click, that's going to say it's done being made, and that's the case for all your tools. So this is just another tool, the line creation tool. So I'm going to make the lip of the line, and we can fix it up later in case it looks like crap, all right? So that's the lip, and we're going to go like this. And then let's make a... Yeah, let's go like this. And I'm trying to remember exactly what it looked like. I looked at it the other day because I wanted the exact definition. I don't want to sound like an idiot more than I already do. So let's go with that. And then notice that was a straight line. When I clicked and dragged, it made what's called a Bezier handle. So when you click and drag, as I'm going to do here, I want a rounded shape here. I'm going to click and drag down. And notice how I get a rounded shape instead of a straight line. And then I'm going to finish here, and it looks a little goofy. But we can fix that up afterwards. Or we can click and drag again and make a Bezier handle. So we'll do that. And notice I have another line here, but I'm kind of done with it. So don't drop another line, just right click. That ends the tool. Game over, good to go. All right, so you're wondering, what is this? This doesn't look very 3D. In fact, let's go to another viewport. By the way, this might help. I know I haven't gone into the UI aspect of the software yet, but there's a button in the bottom right corner here. It says maximize viewport. Hey, that's my email. Wait, you can't see it because it's under my picture. Yes. Anyways, that was my email. Glad you didn't see that. This is a perfect place to put that my picture. Anyways, so maximize viewport right here. You can get this huge thing. You can do that for that was the email sound. You can do this for each viewport. It might not be in the right viewport, but there is a button here to maximize viewports in all windows. It's the one right above it. And so it'll kind of blow it up in the right viewport for you. So you can click that and it'll get bigger. Actually, it's not doing it on this one. What's the deal here? Doesn't want to put it in the middle? Oh, I guess it is in the middle. Whatever, it doesn't matter. So let's go to this viewport. Looks pretty boring, right? Looks pretty blah. Well, get ready for some magic. Go to your drop down in your modifier panel here, or modifier list, and let's go with revolve. Okay, where the hell is that? QRS. That's where my brain is. RE? Is it revolve? Should I have studied for this? Maybe it's not loft. Ooh, I sound like a total idiot here. I don't use this process very often. It's not revolve. Oh, it's sweep. It's the sweep modifier. It depends. No, it might not even be sweep. Ooh, that's wrong too. Don't look at that. That's a later course thing. What are we looking for here? Where's my brain? Lathe. God, there's a term for all of them. Ah, looks terrible, doesn't it? Looks a little terrible. The problem is, just like the symmetry modifier, it depends where the symmetry line is, or in this case, the axis. So if we click this axis and just watch, we move it over, bam, oh, it's starting to look like what we want, or it can get really big and weird. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to go into the other viewport, and we're going to make sure it's right in the center. So if we go into this viewport, I always right-click in the viewport and then press the maximize button. You might have a keyboard shortcut that you can press faster. I think it said Alt-W. If you want to jump into it, into that viewport fast, it's Alt-W. I can't use the keyboard shortcuts, or it would take me a lot longer. Look at this. How stupid would this be if I wanted to pull this up? I click in there, hold Alt-W. Oh, that's terrible, right? I don't like that. So I just use the button in the corner. Might not be the fastest, but hey, gets the job done. And then you can take my job because you're faster at me than this. And that should be the motto of this tutorial series. Be better than the guy that does it professionally, because you can do it faster. Anywho, so we've still got the axis selected here. How do we get it to 0? Well, if we click and drag, we can see it's moving down here on the x-axis. Actually, it's not an x-axis, it's a y-axis. That's weird. All right, anyways. So if we drag this here, make sure you just right-click all these, get it right into the center. Right-clicking any, God, what do you call this? It's not is it a radio box? No, it's not a radio box. But you can click and drag, right? Any that has any box that has an arrow next to it, up and down, you just right-click those arrows. It's a shortcut to go to 0. So now, actually, if we turn this off, I can't really see it because, well, we'll go to wireframe. Here we go. So in your shading panel here, let's go to, actually, we'll do it in this one. Go to wireframe. And now you can see there's a yellow line in the middle. That's the axis. And let's actually move it in a terrible spot. So we've still got it selected right here. It's in the drop down of that modifier, much like if we do like edit poly. So if we move this around, notice that it's on a different axis. We always want it at 0 because we're making something symmetrical here, and I'll explain why this is helpful in a little bit. So right click, bam, back to normal. So you got this really chubby looking vase, right? What the hell does this have to do with smoothing groups? Well, by default, so we're actually going to get our, let's get our surface back here. So take it out of wireframe. And you can see that we've got a nice vase here. Well, the problem with the vase is that we are in smooth shade mode right here. So we can see, all right, let's actually get out of this lathe modifier. We don't change that. It's in a good spot. Because if we edit our lathe or our line, then we can keep that modifier where it is and then kind of update the model as we go. So the problem here is that, well, if I look at the edge here, look at that. I can still see polygons. Look at that straight edge there. And you can see it even more so by turning on the edged faces again. So you can see it doesn't have as many spans as you might want. We can actually turn it down, right? Like maybe that's way too many. We don't even like that. So it's getting pretty polygonal here, right? You can't change the vertical one, which is unfortunate, but you can see the polygons. That's looking pretty haggard, right? So to easily fix this, we can put ourselves a turbo smooth on, and bam! Let's up it a couple times. Looks good, right? Well, not really. Let's get rid of those edge faces. Well, when we made it, we had more of a pronounced crease here. And now that we've, put the turbo smooth on, it doesn't look very good, does it? No, not very good at all. So, what do? Well, we could do an editable poly and give it and define the smoothing groups. And I think we're going to do that just for this lesson. So let's turn off turbo smooth, or just get rid of it. You don't need to delete it or anything. Just turn it off. From where you lathe, I want you to add an editable poly. Okay, nothing happened yet, right? Because we haven't picked a selection here. Like I said, I think it's 1 through 5. But again, I don't use shortcuts, so remember, you can have my job. And we're gonna go to faces. Let's turn on edge faces too, just so we can see what faces we're selecting. So let's think about our smoothing groups here. It looks like we've got a couple different ones. We got a 3, we got a 2, and we got this one. So let's give the whole thing. Let's just define that. Let's clear everything here, because I don't actually want smoothing groups. We wanted to turn on the turbo smooth and be able to see that we defined it and changed the outside. So we want this to be very pronounced. So let's select these right here across the middle, and let's just select one. Okay. Notice the color has changed a little bit. It's because, again, they're being smoothed together regardless of the turbo smooth. They're just calculated with a similar crease between each polygon. And let's turn that turbo smooth back on. And it didn't do anything yet because we didn't check that magical box, smoothing groups. Bam. Look how crazy sharp that edge is now, right? And it actually did us a service twofold, because up at the top, let's get rid of this edged faces nonsense, since we can't really see it very well. God. See, I don't click very well either. You could totally get my job if you told my boss how terrible I am at this software. All right, so something accessible workplace. So if we look under here, that is very sharp. Okay, let's turn off edge faces and let's take a look at it again. We'll look at both sides. We'll look down. Oh, kind of blew up a little bit there. It depends where your rotation is at. So let's look at this bottom one first. So without the crease, or with the crease, with this smoothing group on, looks pretty sharp. Taking it off, oh geez, turning the smoothing groups off, checkbox, and look at that, tight, floppy, tight, floppy, tight, floppy, tight. Oops, see, I didn't fall for it there. Tight, floppy. So, anywho, that's the point of smoothing groups on a model that you might use. Think about things that are round. Oh, geez, there's so many. I mean, I want to do a couple models so you guys will get the idea, but I don't want to bore you to death. So we will finish up this model, and maybe we'll talk about a little bit. I don't want to go too long because I feel like, oof, I'm already at the 13-minute mark, boring you to death. All right, so let's actually finish this model. Let's make it look. Should we make it two-dimensional? Or should we... Okay, so I said let's make it two-dimensional. The problem here is that... Let's check out the bottom real quick. Okay, we got a gap in the bottom. So let's fix that up real quick. Let's go into our lathe. So we're not going to go into the edit poly. In fact, we're going to get rid of that. So let's go to the bottom here and let's... oops, sorry, didn't mean to do that. Let's look at our options here. There is should be a weld at the bottom. Weld core. So weld core means it's going to take this lathe. Oh, can you hear my cat eating? Gross. It's going to take any vertices that are in the middle and weld them, because watch what happens. Actually, we can... So there's a trick. I'm in the vertex mode of the line that we created. If we want to see the end result, there's a button right here. So show the end result. So this shows the modifier stack at the top. So let's hit that guy. And unfortunately, I don't want turbo smooth on right now, so I'm gonna turn that off. And notice, look, it's not so. Cat just scared herself. Notice how this is a little bit. We got rid of the smoothing groups on it, so we'll get that back. But so let's get this vertex to the inside. Now, if we click and drag here, we can see what dimension it's on down in the corner here. See, right now it's at negative 12.442. What do? We just right click this and bam, it's right in the center. Very cool. So let's click off that. We have weld core on. I want to show you what happens when we turn off weld core. If we turn it off, we get some weird puckering down here. Some weird butt puckering. See that? See that weirdness? We don't like that. So the idea behind this checkbox is that it expects you're probably going to turn it into an editable poly object. That's kind of the next, it's kind of the next step when you make an object like that. So we're going to turn on that weld core just because it'll kind of save that issue for us. It'll look nice. We could leave it just like this. In fact, we could continue our line. Let's turn off lathe right now, and we're going to go to the other dimension. So if this is projecting in other dimensions, like 360 degrees, that means if we change this, let's just turn it back on for a sec. That means if we change some of this stuff, it's going to change how it looks in all dimensions. Look at that. What is that? What is that? I don't even know what that is. They don't sell that in the store, and if they did, they'd have too many of them. Anyways, but like I said yesterday, if you're doing something you don't like what it looks like, but you still have the click held down, like this, like look, I'm doing this. See this? See that? Whoop, whoop, whoop. Just right click, it goes back to normal. Even if you still have the click held down now. It's kind of like a quick undo. So click and drag. I don't like that. It looks stupid. I screwed up. Up, right click, back to normal. But you got to hold down that click. Okay, back to the point. Let's finish the model here. Okay, so maybe we want to give this depth, because right now it is actually just a flat surface. It is not three-dimensional, right? The actual object here, because we're just projecting this surface. Let's go back into this guy here. We're just projecting this surface in 360 degrees. There's no inside. There's nowhere to put water, right? You put water in there and it's, I don't know, glass has a thickness to it, or a vase has a thickness to it. So let's add some thickness to it real quick and finish this guy up. So what we can do is we can go into this dimensione, and let's turn off lathe real quick, and let's add some new lines. I can't remember, it's create line. I'm a bad teacher here. I can show you many ways to do this. So we could do create line and go ba-dink, and then geez, we're gonna do a couple tricks. So let's go here. So I click create line, and then the controls are exactly the same. So I haven't clicked, I just clicked that once. Bring it down here. Let's keep it real tight. Let's go like that. And then let's get this one tight too. And that one's going to be tougher. And then let's bring it back. Ooh, that looks a little crappy, right? But we can click and drag. And bam. That looks good enough. But look at that. That one's not... How do we know that's not center? Well, if we zoom in, that might leave a hole, right? Because we had that weld... weld core. Well, we got to weld that core. So this needs to be, if you look, oh, geez, that is 0.359 off. So if we clicked and dragged, we might get close. Oh, look at that. Ah, so close. What is that? Like 0.036? You'll never get close. So remember, right click in that dimension. Now it's perfect. Okay, let's zoom out a little bit. Let's check out how close these edges are. Now, this isn't the best way to do it. This is just a short way to do it. And I can show you other ways to do it some other time, but just keep these tight. I don't want this tutorial to go on too long. There's 1,000 ways to model like everything. So don't think this is the best way to make a vase. There's plenty of better ways to make a vase. Oh my God, I'm over 18 minutes, almost 19 minutes. All right, let's finish this up. This edge sucks, dude. That is way too sharp. There's a chamfer button here. We can click and drag, so we have to click the button first and then drag here, which I don't love. Is it because I'm not connected? Ooh, that line might not be connected. I don't think it's connected, folks. Oh, it's not connected. Look at that. That's a terrible thing. Okay, so what we can do, because I just did create line, that's not super good. You can attach new lines. You can weld lines. Right now, we're going to just weld it. Okay, so if you get super close, actually, if we even got this close, if we select both of these guys, and then we up our weld, this weld is really tight. It would be very difficult to get. So if I click it, look, nothing's happening. If I made the threshold a lot bigger, oh, it's got there now. But that's kind of ridiculous. I like to bring it as close as possible because I don't want to modify where the location is. They don't have a target weld, and I think that's a huge issue, right? That sucks. like they should have a target weld. So what I like to do is go up here, your snapping tools. So we're going to do snapping tools and make sure if you right click it, it'll come up. Turn off grid. We don't want it to pop to the grid. We want it to pop to the vertice, right? So if we click and drag, is it really not gonna, do I look like an idiot right now? Which one am I on? Pivot, grid lines, edge segments, grid points, pivot. I'm just gonna select them all. I feel like an idiot now. How does it not? Wow, I feel terrible. There is not, I thought it would snap. Why doesn't this snap? That's so weird. Anyways, all right, so we're going to do it the crappy way. I apologize. Let's pretend I did my homework, should we? Yeah, it's not snapping. I don't like that at all. I'm going to turn the rest of these off. It does for polygons. Weird. Anyways, okay. So we're just going to bring it really close. We're going to tell it to FO. And we are just going to weld these guys and then put it back into position, right? All right. Pretend we never snapped. That's terrible. I'm going to look into that. I feel kind of dumb now. Move, we got the edges connected, or the Bezier handles connected. If we want to change those Bezier handles, we can click and drag them like so. So if I want that to move, I can click that handle there. Grab that guy, move the handle any way you want. It's kind of, the tools need to be updated for some things. So like, if I click here, it's indicative of these 2 dimensions. Now I can drag this in 2 dimensions. It's just a real pain. Anyways, the reason I couldn't chamfer before is because they weren't welded. They are chamfered now. We want to fill it, actually. A chamfer is a straight edge between. Sorry, it goes too fast because my mouse is jacked up real high. Anyways, it is a straight line between the two. That is a chamfer. We want a fillet. So we can actually click that and then click and drag, so we don't have to click over there. And then we can kind of get this rounded edge. Say we're happy with this. Let's pretend this tutorial went exactly how I wanted. So that's what I was looking for. This is my college thesis for animation. It's the making of a subpar vase. So let's open up the lathe here. And let's see what we got. Ooh, it's black. That's a problem, right? That is a problem. I can fix that problem. So when you make an object that has an inside and an outside, like what we did, you have to deal with these things called normals. Okay, and normals are which way the polygon is facing. Each polygon has a normal, and it's a factor in everything from game design to animation, blah, 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 blah. In the lathe option, there is a flip normals. Solved. Easy as pie. If your polygons go black or they look weird, or sorry, if your surface goes black, sometimes it's your polygons, etc. Blah. If they go black, it's probably the normals. We'll talk about that again also in the future. But I think that's it for now. So there is my vase. Let's flip back on the smoothing groups here, and we're going to get that tight edge here still. If we check the inside, you know, we pumped up that turbo smooth so far. Kind of worried about those inside edges. But you know what? I think they're going to look just like the outside edges. Because by default, yep, it doesn't look half bad. By default, when you do a rounded shape on a Bezier, on a line, if you go straight and then you make an edge like so, let me just make this real quick. So there's a line. Oops. So here's the first line. And if you drag like this section, this top section, is going to have its own smoothing group compared to this one. So it's going to create smoothing groups for you by default, but it's up to you how you want them to behave. So again, they can be very valuable. They can be very destructive if you don't know how to use them. And then you can also just kind of screw them up if you really want to. So let's get into this guy. Let's screw it up like they did on the help files. So they just grabbed a chunk of this. Let's add an editable poly modifier. Let's get rid of the turbo smooth here. And let's do click lathe. We don't want the turbo, we want the turbo smooth on the top of the stack. And again, I can explain more of that later, but trust me, put the editable poly below the turbo smooth. Let's grab some faces. Let's turn on show faces, or sorry, the edged faces. Sorry if I'm not great with the terminology. I use the software every day, but I'll be damned if I know what all the buttons are. You know, I just know what I use and how to use them. Okay, so let's just grab like this chunk here, just out of the blue. And let's add that extra. Let's add this face too. Just control click that face. And let's, oops, I let go of the selection instead of selecting it again. Just hit Control Z, just undo, grab it again. And then I am going to give them a weird smoothing group. Let's give 27, and let's turn the turbo smooth back on. Wait, why did you do that? It should be smoothing them different. Huh. Jeez, don't I look like a fool? This one is not going the way I want. Oh, it's because they're also like, I gotta get rid of it first. Jeez. Get rid of all the smoothing groups on that. Then just add it to its own. Jeez. I'm sorry. Feel bad. And then you've got this weird chunk. And it thinks it's correct, right? So again, I was hoisted by my own petard because I was looking at all of them selected at the same time. So if you select multiple smoothing groups, again, they come up as gray. It means you've got multiple selected. If you select just one and it's blue, that means that face is connected to that smoothing group. Sorry about that. Anywho, I know what I'm doing. I swear, I've been doing this forever. It sucks. Maybe I'm just nervous talking in front of a bunch of people who aren't watching, and that's okay. So anyways, I think that's it for today's lesson. Just gonna pop back here and say, smoothing groups, valuable. I think we're actually gonna get into spline modeling next. That seems to be a good place, and then we'll convert those splines to editable poly, and we'll kind of do some fancy work from there. But smoothing groups will be fantastically helpful throughout your whole journey using polygons, as well, just any surface. Smoothing groups that you smooth, it's going to be really valuable. I can hear my cat screaming. I don't know if you guys can. So I'm going to end this now. Just going to throw myself out there. If you guys like what I'm doing, just keep watching. I'm going to try to make more. Hopefully I'm entertaining. And if I'm not, maybe you learned something, or if you didn't learn anything, hopefully I'm entertaining. If you want to check out my cartoons, right there on the screen, Barbaric Melons, they're funny, I promise. Hasn't been any uptick in there hasn't been any uptick in viewership, so I'm gonna take that as a positive. I'm just gonna assume you're waiting for my birthday to go watch. Anywho, thanks for watching. Smoothing groups. Go get some. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.